intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
I think we're in for another fun one. This guy has some stories to share, some new music to share, so much going on. He's a singer-songwriter. He's put out a few EPs, but his debut album, Roads That Go Nowhere, is out now. Let's welcome in Travis Denning.
Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, before the show, I said if you want to grab a drink, feel free. But I know you're behaving yourself a little bit tonight. But this is bar conversation, so I got to ask, what's your go-to drink these days?
Man, I'm a Jack and Diet Coke kind of guy. I have been probably since I was 21, maybe even a little bit before that. But I love a Jack and Diet Coke. I mean, I don't turn my nose up at anything if it's alcoholic, but that's just you can't go wrong handing me one of those.
There you go, there you go. See, I felt like I'd bring out a little something fun, a little Yellowstone rum cask finish for tonight. So now, do you enjoy things beyond, Jack Daniel's in the whiskey realm? Anything else that tickles you or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I love it all. I mean, I'm married into a Kentucky family, so I gotta have a little bit of a bourbon, palate. But man, my favorite thing to sip is a good tequila, actually, and that's my favorite thing. Either neat or on one or two ice cubes. I love Jose Reserve de la Familia. It's like the actual tequila Jose Cuervo makes, not the crap at the bottom. They actually do make some really good high end stuff. So I love that, and then can't go wrong with Don Julio 1942. That's usually pretty damn tasty. But my favorite bourbon would be Jefferson's like aged at sea. I really like that stuff. It's really great.
Nice. Now on the tequilas, so Blanco for the most part, or do you go to Reposado and Añejo, anywhere there?
I think Reposado is the best of the three, but like a good Añejo is really great. I think Reposado, it's just you get a little bit more flavor, but it's still like not so heavy. I mean, some of those extra Añejos, they're pretty much whiskey at that point. I mean, it's pretty wild how dark they can get.
I was gonna say I've got one that I think was aged 3 years in bourbon barrels, and I'm like, that's longer than some of the whiskeys out there.
That's technically longer than you have to do for it to be bourbon.
Now, how much fun was it doing the video with Josh Ross, and how many beers were opened for that?
Way too many, honestly. It was a little sad because we did drink some of them. I mean, I will say that, but it was at like 10 in the morning, and we were getting all this content. I'm like, dude, I feel this is true alcohol abuse, just tossing all this damn beer. But we opened up a whole case trying to get a couple videos. So I've yet to figure out how I'm gonna play that song live, but once I do, it'll be a lot of fun.
I was gonna say, are you gonna try to have someone open a can for you, or still in the planning process?
So I just had an album release party, and we performed it, and I was like, all right, these people haven't even heard the song yet. So I was like, they gotta have some context. And so I cracked open a beer at the top of the first chorus, and it was like this big, held it up, cracked it, and everybody in the crowd was like, oh, okay, I got it. So as long as you just do it one time, maybe twice, they get it.
Eventually, you'll just see people cracking them in the audience, and then you'll know it's perfect.
Exactly. Then you know exactly that's for it.
And I've noticed that you tend to have some fun on social media. Back in the day, you were doing some Travis Denning and Friends Do stuff, and then you did The Bachelor after a few. How much fun do you like to have out there?
Dude, we have the most fun. There ain't nobody out in the crowd having more fun than me. I just really, I'm blessed and fortunate to do what I do, and I don't take it lightly. So, and man, country music's supposed to be fun. That's the reason I recorded a song like The Sound of the Beer Getting Cracked, because we're not changing lives with that one. We're just trying to have some fun and make a good summertime song. And there's a time and place for all of it, So, we like to keep a good culture on the road.
I was gonna say, are you planning things out in advance on some of those, or is it just spur of the moment, or just kind of depends on what's going on?
When we did Travis Denning and Friends Do Stuff, it was all pretty planned out. We were doing, like for everybody I picked, I kind of had an idea that I felt like fit them really well. And but as far as like down to the details, we just hit record and let it figure itself out.
And whatever mayhem happens.
Absolutely.
Now, I was told too that, in addition to having a good sense of humor, you're a pretty good storyteller. Do you have a good story you can share with us?
Trying to think of something recently that's happened. We are about to go out on tour with Hardy this weekend. So this happened literally last night. This is a great story. This was Memorial Day, and we had been out on the boat, had some fun, and we went over to a buddy's house, and the drinks had been flowing all day, but they were really flowing pretty continuously towards the end of the night, and we were, hearing the cicadas as everybody else is in the United States right now. And we started having a conversation about, I was like, you can actually eat cicadas. You can cook them, you can fry them up, you can do this whole thing. And, like Hardy was like, oh, man, I wonder what they taste like. And then our buddy Tyler was like, you want to find a couple in the tree and eat them right now? And I was like, hell yes. And so, against my better judgment, we rounded up a couple cicadas, and at first we used a little torch and we like cooked them a little bit, and then we ate them. And then I finally just said, everybody else kind of ate one. I was like, well, I got to one up everybody, so I just raw dogged, ate sashimi'd a cicada. Picked one up off the ground and put it in my mouth and ate it. And I think that was Jack Daniels making the decisions there. That wasn't really me anymore. But yeah, not my most non-gross moment. But if I'm ever lost in the wild during a 17-year cicada brood, then I'll be fine. I'll be able to eat. I'll be good.
Now, what does it taste like?
Honestly, it was it just tasted salty. It wasn't like anything crazy. It really didn't have any flavor. It just a little bit of the salty vibes and a little crunchy.
I was gonna say maybe a little crunchy.
I've eaten worse things for sure. I was sadly very surprised, and it piqued my interest. But I'm gonna let my cicada eating days live and die in that one night. I'm not gonna continue them.
Well, unless you just absolutely have to, and hopefully you don't.
I was about to say, if the apocalypse, if we lose internet and all that stuff and electricity, and yes, then I'll eat off the land and I'll eat cicadas.
Now, for those that are watching the episode, you can see, Travis rocking a hat there. Do you wear anything else besides a hat and boots most of these days? And how many hats and pairs of boots do you have?
I'll do my hair for fancy dinners and whatnot and court appearances. That's about the only two times. But recently me and Madison, my wife, just celebrated our 1 year anniversary. So I got my hair all slicked up, looking good for that. But man, I just, it's kind of, it seems like everybody's wearing one these days. But I like it. I think, for me, especially as an artist, whatever your music reflects, I think that's how you should do it. And that was actually some advice I was given in 2019. I was telling someone, like, yeah, they just hate me wearing a hat, blah, blah, blah. And and someone said, well, does your music sound like you're wearing a hat, or does it sound like you have your hair done? I was like, I think it sounds like I'm wearing a hat. And they said, then wear the damn hat. Who cares? But yeah, man, I got way too many damn hats, to be honest with you. I'm looking at like 4 over here on my couch, just sitting there. And then boots, I only wear Lucchese's. When it comes to cowboy boots, they make the best boot in the world. And man, I think I've got about 10 or 11 pairs of Lucchese's, and they all have their moments in their rotation, but they always get worn.
Hey, as long as they're getting used, right? That's all that matters. And congrats on the 1 year anniversary. And did I see too that your wife goes out fishing with you and has a good time? Now sometimes she might move on from the fishing, but she's out there with you.
Yeah, she loves the boat. I think every person born in the South is like, oh, a lake day or getting on the river, I'm there, period. But yeah, she fishes a little bit actually. She's got a decent little decent little interest in it. You know, not she ain't gonna get up at 5 in the morning and go fish with me, but not yet at least. But yeah, she's good. She out fished me about a month ago. We went on the river. She caught more than I did.
Well, I enjoyed your one video. You know how you talk about sometimes you're making content where you were promoting the new album or one of the songs, and lo and behold, you end up catching an actual fish.
Hey, every now and then the stars line up.
So I mean that's pretty awesome, and you do also do music, and is it true at age 14 you got on stage with the Marshall Tucker band?
Yeah, that was the first time I ever stepped foot on stage.
What was that experience like?
It's pretty nuts. Been downhill ever since. No, but it's been, man, it was great. I mean, it was just a special moment. You know, it was kind of an opportunity for me as a young kid to like put a little bit of tangibility to the dream, you know, and that desire that seemed not real and unobtainable, and just to be able to like be backstage and do these things and see how things kind of work at such a young age, like that was just one of the coolest things ever.
Well, and you around that age, or maybe a couple years earlier, that's when you picked up the guitar, right?
Yeah, I've been playing guitar for about 3 years, so I was I knew my way around it. I mean, I was still at that point. I feel like I had truly learned how to play guitar, and now I was in the phase of just becoming a musician. You know, because I think there's a big difference between knowing how to play the guitar and then being a musician with a guitar, and that takes. You know, I don't think anybody ever actually reaches that finish line. I think we spend our whole lives just trying to get better and craft it. And Lord knows I'm still, doing new things every day and trying to get better at guitar, and happy where I'm at, but just always trying to push the next envelope into something that challenges me as a musician. And so that was kind of when I was starting to go like, okay, like that, I was digging in on Southern rock and blues and things like that, and really starting to understand, what makes a guitar player a little bit more unique.
Well, and you play left-handed guitar, right?
Yeah, I play it backwards.
I was gonna say, was that hard to learn? Because I grew up, golfing, some left-handed buddies, they're like, well, you just play right-handed. No, there's no left-handed clubs. So I mean, what was it like trying to learn, with the left-handed guitar?
Well, I'm there's not a thing I do in this world right-handed. I'm incredibly left-handed. So for me, it wasn't even an option. Like I had to play it lefty. But I got pretty fortunate that my guitar teacher I had was left-handed, and so he was able to just help me tune my guitar like before I could really just early on, those little things. And then sitting across from him, it helped me, being able to look, and it wasn't a mirror image. I was able to look and kind of flip it in my mind instead of being face-to-face to a right-handed player. And that just helped a lot. It was also kind of like one of those like universe signs, it was just like, oh, damn, he's left-handed. I was like, this guy has to be the guy to teach me,
Well, it seems to have worked out pretty well for you. And, was it just the guitar that you wanted to play growing up, or were you singing songs back then too? What was going on in the house?
No, I didn't really start singing or writing songs until I definitely didn't really start singing like playing shows and things until I was probably like 16 or 17. But yeah, I played guitar really heavy from like 11 to like 14, and then I started, just writing down some little songs in my notebook and stuff like that. But yeah, guitar was the driving force of my love for music early on.
Well, and I'm guessing that, love of guitar also had an impact on the music that you liked, because I'm guessing it wasn't always just country, and you maybe dabbled into something a little harder at times with guitars.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, guitar was the driving point of what I listened to after I started playing. So, obviously Southern rock, like the Allman Brothers Band, Skinner, the Outlaws, Marshall Tucker Band, they were very guitar-forward bands. And then classic rock, just, AC/DC, Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Boston, like those true kind of guitar hero bands, Jimi Hendrix. And then just the more I got better and was like honing in on my craft and things, like I wanted to hear the guitar faster and louder and all those things. And so the classic rock just slowly evolved into like, early metal like Metallica and Pantera and Slayer, and then it turned into heavier and heavier bands. And I really, by the time I'd say 12 or 13, I mean, I was just a full on dorky metalhead, man. I loved it so much, and I still am. I'm wearing a Kubla Khan hat. It's one of my favorite up and coming metal bands. I went and saw in Nashville last week, and so yeah, it was a lot of that. And then all of a sudden at 16, it was like a switch flipped, and I was like, oh, John Mayer's cool. You know what I mean? Like it was just, but it was always guitar based, no matter where it was, And so I fell back in love with Southern rock even deeper than I had before, and I loved blues and some of the older jazz like Wes Montgomery, but it was all, they shared the theme of guitar playing.
And then where did country music come in?
Country music came in with the songs. That's when it all started to make sense to me. And I mean, I grew up listening to a little bit of country music. Like my mom loved it, my sister was obsessed with it. And when you're a kid, you don't like the things your sibling likes, So I was like, oh, country music, whatever. And then like I remember hearing some of the earliest country songs I remember were, a lot of Alan Jackson stuff, like being born and raised in Georgia. But the first country song I heard that I loved was Seminole Wind by John Anderson. And Swingin' by him. That was, my dad had a John Anderson greatest hits, and it was like, I just remember those two songs and loving them. And by the time I was 16, 17, and I was living, a dude raised in the South in his teenage years with a set of keys and things like that, like the songs I related to were country music, because that's when I realized the songs and the music of country music was reflective of my life and where I came from. And Jason Aldean came along and he was popping off, and I was like, all right, you can actually take some of the metal stuff and the hard rock stuff and you can blend it with the country. And he was one of the biggest motivators for me, because not only did I think his music lended itself towards what I felt like I could do, but he was born and raised 30 minutes north of where I'm from, Middle Georgia. And so he made the dream seem like a reality, like it was a little bit more possible than normal.
Well, and obviously as country music continues to evolve, and rock and some metal has kind of come in, and you talk about where you grew up in Georgia. Obviously a ton of country artists tend to come out from down there. What was it like growing up there, and what impact did that have on you?
Man, I wouldn't trade my raising for anything, man. I just there's something about it, man. I think everybody, good or bad, man, I think everybody has a relationship with where they come from. I mean, I think Bruce Springsteen said it in his Broadway show. He said everybody has a love-hate relationship with their hometown. And I think for me, it's mainly love, I mean, that's what, but it's just, I think it's more about the ground I come from. Like there's geographical things to Georgia that are so unique, like so many pine trees, and like things like pine straw being used as mulch instead of just black chip mulch. Like things like that are so Georgia and so Southern, and Georgia red clay, like those things really drive a lot of my love and romanticism, I think, about like where I come from. And then on top of that, just I was blessed to have the parents I had and grow up in a town with the people I did. And man, I grew up super normal like a lot of other people, and I was blessed that it happened where it did. The album cover for Roads That Go Nowhere, that photo is taken at Westlake Road, which was a back road that went to a boat ramp on the Ocmulgee River, about 20 minutes from my parents' house. Now, it was definitely the beer drinking back road. That was the party back road, all that stuff. And when I'm back home, I still, if I got time, I might go, ride back there and drink a beer for old time's sake. But I wanted that to be a key part of this record. I wanted to end the record with the song Ocmulgee River, and just, really the long answer is, man, I think it shaped everything that I do musically growing up there.
Well, I mean that's awesome to see, and obviously though you took the leap to Nashville. What pushed you to make that move, and did you really save up and have 10,000, and it was make or break with that?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's pretty funny too. Like when I tell that story and stuff, people are like, "Well, that's kind of a lot of money." I'm like, "Shit, it took me 2.5 years to save up." I was like, "It wasn't like it wasn't easy to get, you know." And but I kind of my dad is one of the he's him and my mom are my biggest supporters. But my dad told me early on, he's like, "Man, you should crunch the numbers and go up there with a year's worth of a cushion, you know, where you can make rent and you can feed yourself, but you can still go get a beer and network, and you can do the things that are fun. Don't go drink it all in 2 months, but like whatever that number is." And, I looked at apartments, did all this, and I found an apartment, which is crazy to say now with the price of everything, but me and my buddy Jordan Rager moved into an apartment for essentially $1,000. We did $500 a piece every month, and I mean 5 times 12, $6,000 of rent. And I was like, all right. I was like, $4,000 ain't a whole lot of money to stretch over the top of that. I was like, I can eat cheap, I can do all this, and I was still playing shows. I was still going back to Georgia and playing little honky tonks and putting a couple $100 in my pocket and things of that nature. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go up with that and allow myself the opportunity to dive in without a job, without like a second job. And really the plan was, if I got through that year and I dried up my money, like I wasn't packing up or going home, I would have just gone and got a job so I could make rent. I just wanted to afford myself the opportunity to just be able to focus on what I wanted to focus on. And for that, I'm very blessed that I had that game plan, because I think being able to do that, being able to be available to like co-write, play writers rounds, do things of that nature, it really helped. I think it was an advantage. And in November of that first year, I signed a publishing deal with Jeremy Stover, and then he started paying me, and I was like, all right, cool. I found that second job, and it's writing songs. Thank God.
I was gonna say, I mean, when that happened, and then obviously, you're starting to actually get some of those cuts and things like that. How much did all of that change for you, and kind of get you to where you are now?
Man, I think so much of that time I spent writing and stuff, man, it's just like nose to the grindstone and show up every day and give your best, and that's all it is. I think you just you don't look up, you do your thing, and just let the work speak for itself. So I spent a lot of time on the road every day, and then that that mentality translated to my personal life, in the sense of like I started working out and eating right and just doing all these little things in my life to just go like, I want to be in a position to succeed. And I think it's just waking up every day and doing the things that seem monotonous, or writing a song when you don't want to, and all these things. And that's just what I did. And then all of a sudden 2016 rolled around, and one of my best friends in town got a job at Universal as an A&R staff member, and he had always been a big supporter of mine. I thought, well, damn, this might turn into something, and then I wrote David Ashley Parker from Powder Springs, and After a Few, within about 3 months of each other. Like, all these things started happening really fast, but it wasn't overnight. It was 2.5 years of just showing up, writing a whole lot of songs just to get the right couple, and it just, all the timing lined up perfectly, and I kind of saw like this path that might work, and I signed a record deal in 2017. And then after that, it was just keep writing songs and keep the ones that I don't want anybody else to cut.
Well, and you talk about, David Ashley Parker from Powder Springs. What was it like to kind of release that as kind of your, debut big label single, and how true is that story?
Well, it's 100% true. A couple things been changed to rhyme, but it's not his birthday was incorrect because I couldn't remember it. And but no, it's man, for that to be the first single actually was. I mean, it was a little bit of a. It was kind of a risky first single because, you know, it came out in January of 2018, and like radio was the most important thing. Like if you could get a hit on the radio, you could get your foot was in the door, you know. And it's crazy how much the technology has changed even just in 6 years, because now we know there's so many there's other avenues to get in the door. Now radio I think is still massively huge, but then it was like, you know, that was the way to do it. So to put out a song about a fake ID with all these incredibly detailed lyrics that are very specific to me, it was kind of like, well, what the hell's relatable about this? This dude's just singing about his fake ID. But I think it was the best move we could have made. I mean, it was just like, because it broke top 40. You know, it wasn't a number one, but it was a hit with the fans because I think it was different. It was different from so many other singles that were out there on the radio, and people just related to it. I mean, if you like drinking beer and you did it before you were 21, you probably had a fake ID. And so it's a very specific story and song, but it's not a specific story, I guess. It's a specific song, but the story is very similar for everybody. And yeah, it was cool. It was a roll of the dice, but I was glad we did it.
I was going to say, I mean, the whole point of, you know, I think my favorite thing about country music is, you know, the storytelling, and people can see themselves in those songs. And I guarantee you, there's a lot of people that have done that in their lives. And, you know, you also had, I'm guessing some things changed too after a few, once it kind of hit number one and made that long climb up there. I'm guessing, did things change a little bit then too?
Yeah, it was hard to see because it happened during COVID. So it was like, it was so weird to like have a number one and be celebrating all these things, but like we weren't on the road and all those things. But yeah, I mean, definitely once we got back on the road and we did the tours and did some stuff, and hearing people sing it back, that it was pretty wild, you know, and it was very exciting. And I got a very small glimpse of it before the world shut down. It was like top 15. It was almost top 10. And it was crushing. Like people knew the song finally. And so one of the last shows we played before the shutdown was the House of Blues in Boston, opening up for Dustin Lynch, and everybody sang every word to it. And it was cool. It's just it's one thing to hear your song on the radio, but to see people singing it back because they heard it on the radio, it's the craziest. Like, you know, you do all these little things for so long to just get to that point, and to see it pay off in the simplest way, it's very surreal, and it's wild.
Well, and you know, you've released a few EPs, but now you made the decision, you made the full album. What flipped that you're like, you know, all right, enough with the EPs, let's see what happens with an album?
A few things. I mean, last year I didn't play as many shows as I had in the past, and so I had a lot more time to be creative and focus on writing and all these things. But for me, it was just time. Like, I mean, I think with the EPs and stuff, it was kind of more just like, you know, like those EPs were more based around maybe one or two songs, right? Like the Dirt Road Down EP, like I had Dirt Road Down and I had Call It Country. And I was like, well, I want both of these songs to be out so I can play them live, but let's put some songs around them and present it that way. And then with Might As Well Be Me, it was Buy a Girl a Drink. Like, I felt like that song would really resonate. And I was like, but I got some other songs we can put around it and kind of present it in this little package. And for me, I felt like I finally had like a story to package and not just like a song with other songs. And I had cut probably 7 or 8 songs in 2023, and like Strawberry Wine and Cheap Six Pack, we had put that out, and Things I'm Going Through was about to come out. And I was kind of like, what the hell are we doing? Like, what's the point of all these songs? Like, is it a record? Is it not? Like, I was like, I don't know. And I guess it had been late April 23. I wrote Roads That Go Nowhere. And when I wrote that song, I knew immediately before I even heard the demo, I knew that was the album title. And it happened at kind of just a shifting moment in my life. Like I was about a month out from getting married, some things happening like in the business, some things were changing, and some of my music stuff and personal life and things. And so I was a little bit more like reflective. And yeah, man, it just like, I realized, I was like, okay, I've got a theme now, and there's a message I'm trying to get across with this. And that was that, I mean, I've been down a lot of roads that go nowhere, supposedly go nowhere, and I've gotten pretty damn far on them, you know? And I was like, well, let's tell those stories. Let's talk about those roads. And the rest of the record, and I thank God that the first couple songs we had cut did fit that theme a little bit as well. But the last couple songs we recorded, it was really pointed to that thought process, you know, like I sang about heartbreak and breakups and tough times and things like that. And then I wrote about where I'm at now, like my love for my wife and my happiness with where I'm at. And I wrote about where I come from and all these little things. So it just finally made sense that it was like, this is an album. Like this is an actual conceptual piece of music that I think we could put out as a package. And, you know, it makes sense.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, and then you were able to actually send it out into the world, you know. How cool was it to actually bring it to life and see it, you know, let people hear it?
I mean, it's been awesome. It's honestly been a lot of fun. Like, it hasn't been super stressful. I mean, some things have, but gearing up for the album to come out and watching it come out was awesome. And it was better than I thought it's done better already than I thought it would. And just there's been some cool things. You know, I'm seeing like people, I can tell because of the data that people are listening to the whole thing. Like they're giving it a good, honest shot. And I got a text from one of my friends who, like, it was one of my favorite compliments about this record was, he said, man, he said, I listened to it a few times over the weekend. He said, and I listened to it top to bottom. And he was like, top down, it feels like an album. It's sequenced well, everything. He said, it just feels like one solid, cohesive project. He said, that doesn't happen a lot anymore, you know? And so I'm thankful.
Mm-hmm.
That was my goal with this record, was like, let's put out an album that feels like a damn album, you know, not just a bunch of songs on a playlist. And so it's been cool. I'm excited, and I'm excited to do the Hardy tour and you know, play Southern Rock with him and all these things, and it's going to be a blast.
Well, I was going to say, Southern Rock's one of my favorites. And one, how did you get Hardy on? How was that process like? And two, did you ever think you were going to release that song? Because you wrote that a while back. It's not one that you just wrote recently. You've been holding on to that one.
Yeah, I wrote that song 8 years ago, and man, it had a couple updates here and there, but you know, nothing. But it was pretty much the same song. I luckily got reminded of it by my friend Mandolin, who manages Lainey Wilson. She brought it up to my manager at a breakfast they were having. She was like, "Man, Travis, you know, he had a song back in the day. I remember everybody really liked, you know." And she's like, "I think it was Southern Rock or Ray." And I thought, "Damn, I ain't thought about that song in a minute." And I went back and listened to it, and I was like, "Yeah, it might be time to finally do this one." And I texted my producers and I said, "Yeah, I think it's about time we cut this song." And Stover, who hadn't remembered the song, he was like, "Oh, let's do it," you know. And I'm glad I waited, because I would have not cut it how we cut it. I'm proud of my vocal performance. I don't think I would have been proud of it if I'd cut it when I was a little tiny 26-year-old. And man, when we recorded it in the studio and I was sitting there listening to the band play it and I was hearing it come to life, I was like, this song needs Hardy on it. And I had kind of there's another song on the record that I actually almost sent to him because I mean, me and Hardy, very good friends. I think he's one of the best artists of this generation right now. He's a true artist, and so I was like, I had another song where I was like, I may send him that. Like that could be a fun thing, blah blah blah. But Southern Rock, I knew he would love because it's just as much his story as it is mine about how we were raised, and I knew he'd connect with it. And so I just texted it to him. I just sent it to him, and I was like, bro, I'd love to have you on this. And he said, let's do it. And he did it, and he knocked it out of the damn park. And it's definitely my favorite moment on the album. And so far, it seems like it's everybody else's favorite moment, which is great.
Well, and it's cool to see, some things that you just, let marinate or age like a fine whiskey, come to life.
Absolutely. You got to let it sit in that barrel for a little bit.
And you were a little more involved on this album too, correct? Like you were laying down different things, kind of, like you said, even with the vocals, you were very precise. Why did you want to go about it that way on this one?
Well, just I knew we'd have time to do it. In the past, like an EP, it's like go cut 5 songs and get them mixed really fast and let's put it out kind of deal. And I knew we were going to spend a lot of time on this record. We had a whole year to do it, and so I've grown more confident in my role as like a guitar player in the studio. Early on, I was so intimidated by it because it's forever. I mean, you record a part, it's going to be on that record forever. I just feel more confident, more creative, I think, these days. And so I played all the electrics on it, some of the acoustics. There's a drum loop on a song that I made. I was like pretty fired up about that. Felt like a producer, and man, it was just fun. And I just tried to challenge myself vocally on this. I was like, man, shoot for the stars and try and perform these vocals as good as you can. Like really make a great recorded vocal. And so those two approaches were the most important thing. Like have the guitar forward in it and sing your ass off, and try and do your best job. So it was just fun to dig in and spend time on it.
Well, and do you feel like with this one too that you kind of found maybe who you are, exactly who you want to be with that guitar driven aspect, and just being able to kind of put a full complete record around that?
I think so, but I kind of also don't want to do that. I kind of want to always feel like I can search for something better. But I do feel like there are certain songs and certain things that I feel confident in that I'll always have a piece of that. Kind of that. I mean, Southern Rock and that guitar solo and that approach to a song, like that's my bread and butter of what I love, and it's what I love to sing, and it's what I love to record, and so I think that kind of sound will always run through it, and then I'll just try and sprinkle some cool stuff around it that's different every other time.
Well, I can't wait to see, but I'm really enjoying the album right now, Roads That Go Nowhere, and I hear your live shows are pretty fun too. What's it like being on stage for you?
It just feels normal, and it feels correct. I've been playing shows for people since I was about 16 years old, so it's pretty much almost half of my life I've been doing that, and I love it. Like that's my everything we do in the studio and writing the songs and press and all this stuff is to perform music. Like I saw something the other day, Keith Urban talking about his new record. He was talking about playing music. He's like, that's what it's called. We play music. We're supposed to go to your town and you buy an overpriced beer and come see me on stage. That's what we're supposed to do. And I think that's the Z in the A to Z in this progression. And so I try to give her hell every night and make that part a really rewarding payoff for the music, not only for the fans, but for me. Like I just want to have fun, and I tend to have fun playing shows.
Now, this is one of my favorite questions to ask everyone. I think I ask every single one. What's your favorite song to perform live these days? Do you have like a favorite, whether it's yours or not?
Well, Call It Country has always been pretty high on that list. We do like a really extended version with a long guitar solo. Uh, you know, Abby is always great energy from the crowd. But I think I Know How It Sounds off the new record is my favorite right now to play from it. And we've been doing kind of a heavier hitting version of Wanted Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi lately, and that's been kind of fun too. So
Nice, nice, and obviously you got some tour dates, this summer. You're out on tour with Hardy, doing a couple other shows. What can folks expect on the tour, and what's it like being on tour?
if you're coming to the Hardy tour, I hope you're ready to get your shit kicked in, for lack of a better term, unfortunately. But that's the most PG-13 way I can describe it. It's going to be stupid awesome. Like, his show is crazy, and the new set is just wild. It's so good. And we're going to do our best to make you go, damn, who was that guy that opened up for Hardy? So if you hadn't heard of us before, hopefully you leave with that. And that's always our goal, is I want people to go, damn, I didn't know he did that, or who was that? If I can get everybody to say that, then we're doing good.
Well, hopefully you have plenty doing that, and obviously I'm sure Southern Rock will make an appearance potentially at some of those shows. But what else can folks expect from you the rest of the year? Obviously, like I said, you got the album that's out now, you got the tour dates. What else? I mean, anything else that you can do? I mean,
no, man. Hey, we're gonna be pedal to the metal, and coming to a city near y'all, and I'm just excited for this record to kind of marinate with people and see what they're liking, and and all that good stuff. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, if they haven't, they do need to check it out. I love that song. I love the song cracking a beer. There's so many good songs on the Roads That Go Nowhere, and it's cool to see how that project came to be for you. And Travis, thanks for I know you were taking it easy tonight, but thanks for sharing a drink with me.
I will definitely be having a Jack and Diet this weekend, though, so I will definitely do that. Man, I appreciate you having me.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.